Well, you know me, always the last one in the barn. I am Dan Kingerski on the Pittsburgh Hockey Now platforms. The Pittsburgh Penguins lay waste to some dire predictions, a lot of expectations, a lot of low expectations, and they squashed the Minnesota Wild on Thursday 4-1 here at the Grand Casino Arena. So let's just get into the bigger issues here before we get down into the smaller issues of the game. That's 8 straight games which the Penguins have earned a point. 6-0-2 in that time. Oh, by the way, they're now 8-2-2 on the season. And every time you think they're going to have a little regression, you think you see it coming. Like, okay, kind of a bad game in Philadelphia on Tuesday. They'll probably continue that now that we're on the road. You know, now's the regression's coming, right? Wrong. The Penguins had a bad start in the first period. They were outshot 13-6. And then they hit the switch. Minnesota badly needing a win, playing pretty well in the first period, and the Penguins just began to methodically take the puck from them. What was a lot of stretched out, loose play, a bit of lethargy in the Penguins game, became energy. It became momentum. They began to build. The Penguins kind of, nuts and bolts. They got screwed in the first period. There was no way that goal should have been waved off after a review. And the refs took about 10 seconds to review that goal by Evgeny Malkin. His turning shot, right in the net. Justin Brazeau was kind of knocked into the crease and into goalie Philip Gustafsson. This is in the first period, would have tied the game. Replays clearly showed it was Jake Middleton who actually contacted the goalie with his head in the shoulder as Brazeau kind of, made an effort to get the heck out of the way. I can't tell you what they were thinking or what the actual call was. It's one of those, we can't be wrong here, so no goal. The Penguins also then killed off an inexplicable power play in the first period. Brian Rust body checked Matt Boldy, and they called him for tripping. And you're thinking, oh boy, this is one of those games that last season would have absolutely gotten ugly and gotten away from the Penguins. It would have been 3-0 going into the second period, a couple of soft goals or a couple of terrible mistakes, and the implosion would have been so great it would have rumbled all the way up in Winnipeg. But the Penguins turned it to their favor. They outshot Minnesota 12-6 in the second period. They get the tying goal. They clearly took control of the game. And then some third period goals. Ben Kindle, he kind of put the icing on the cake with a power play goal. Brian Rust scores. Ryan Shea gets a goal. Shea's goal actually was a bit humorous, because that actually could have been goaltender interference on Ville Koivunen, who was tripped, slides into the goalie. That's not goaltender interference, but sort of laying there, lingering, as if he were, outside the quick stop. And Shea blasted past Gustafsson, who was still trying to recover. They called that one a goal. Go figure. It was call it poetic justice on the part of the Penguins. To the bigger issues, there is something entirely different about this team. Can't put your finger on it. You can only look at the end results. They rally rather than quit through adversity. They protect leads not by chaos and hanging on for dear life, but by aggressive, structured play. Good goaltending. Yeah. All of these things that if they had gotten any modicum of over the last 3 seasons, they very likely would have been in the playoffs. But instead, they got the exact opposite. Well, now, as Brian Rust said, we're having a lot of fun. Learning from the bad, even learning from the good. And they're not getting ahead of themselves. Maybe that's the key point. They aren't getting ahead of themselves. But I think Penguins fans certainly can begin to get a little bit ahead. And look, they're not going to win 80% of their games for the rest of the season, but there's a lot of fun to be had on this team. I don't know if you saw my Twitter or my X account Thursday morning. Because of Parker Wotherspoon's sort of swing and a miss and faceplant in Philadelphia, a unnamed player. Now, I watched it all happen, but I changed the names to protect the not innocent. Poor Parker Wotherspoon didn't know who it was. And I'm not going to be the one to blow the whistle. But a Penguins player, with some help, did kind of a chalk outline on the ice of number 28 laying there just inside the blue line. Yes, I had to edit that because I actually, in the first take, said the player's name, or at least started to. They were having fun with that. Dan Muse was laughing. Sidney Crosby belly laughed when he stepped on the ice for the morning skate Thursday and saw that. And there just is. There's a tight group forming in the locker room. On the ice, the tight groups are, in fact, what is propelling the Penguins. Erik Karlsson gave me this little nugget Thursday morning, which I'm going to write a lot more about in the coming days. I said, it looks like you guys are playing faster. He's like, well, we're playing in small, tight groups, a lot more small, tight puck support. Maybe that's why we look faster. You know, those passes are quick. And maybe it's a visual thing. Instead of being stretched out and spaced out, where one guy has to win his battle. And if that one player doesn't, now the play goes the other way. With the tight support, if one player loses the battle, another one joins it. It creates layers, it creates traffic, it creates pressure, it creates all of the good things. Dan Muse is doing a heck of a job with this team. Thought the Penguins in the second and third period were as structured and as clean as they've been in quite some time. And when they're not, or when the other team actually, makes a play or two, the Penguins are getting good goaltending. After the win on Thursday, Tristan Jarry's save percentage this season, he's 5-1 with a .923 save percentage. So that's it from the Grand Casino Arena. We're off to Winnipeg on Friday, and I apologize. Just the way the schedules came out, I can't cover practice. In fact, no one's covering practice on Friday because there's one plane out of Minnesota to Winnipeg. There were two. One was completely sold out a long time ago, and the other one was at 10 o'clock in the morning before practice. So those were my choices. Walk to Winnipeg or take the early flight. I think I got quite a bit on Thursday morning that I'll be able to bring to you, and just the inside stuff. There's not a lot of in fact, there's no drama with this team, and they're all ribbing each other and kind of having, like Brian Russ said, they're having a lot of fun. Winning does that, no question, but just even the style of play and their ability to get over the bad stuff very quickly. I mean, come on. Having a goal called off like that, they would have been arguing for half an hour last season. This season, water off a duck's back. That's it from the arena. I'm Dan Kingerski. We're headed to Tom Reed's down the street to Tilt a Pint. Hopefully I'll see you there. Have fun.